This is a very short video. I hope it's a very short video. The last week I made a video about mini projects. Today I want to talk about longer projects and why you should do longer projects from time to time. So on to the Hello everyone, and I hope my voice is clear. Let me take my glasses off for this one. A week ago, maybe 10 days ago, I spoke about mini projects, bite-sized projects that you can easily do in about a week or in an afternoon. And there are advantages of that because you complete the project very fast and you don't really spend too much time working on a project because you lose steam sometimes. Sometimes you just lose motivation. But there are times when you have to or you must dare to dream big. And that's when a long project comes into play. That's when you actually work on a long project. Sometimes you do lose steam, as I said. I started working on one recently and I lost steam halfway. I dropped it and I might pick it up again next year. So there was one which I did, and I want to talk about that and what I did at the end and what was the absolute screw up at the end. A long project is satisfying and it needs a lot of planning. You see here a project plan. I'm not saying that you need to make a detailed project plan using some sort of fantastic or fancy software, but you need to have some sort of a plan or some sort of a schedule on how you intend to complete the project. You will start by brainstorming, and sometimes you just brainstorm yourself, and other times you're going to ask your friends, your family, strangers, colleagues, anybody, and that's my Alexa beeping. But it starts with you brainstorming, and in the last video, you're going to have the link below. You will actually look at various sources. Sometimes inspiration strikes, and sometimes from things that you have read. Sometimes it is from your growing interests or your changing interests in life. You need to list down the various aspects of the subject that you wish to cover. This step is absolutely critical. You must actually make a long list of all the various aspects of the subject, the points of view, and what you hope to achieve. Once you've done this, then you can actually start making the plan. Make a plan, make a plan, make a plan, make a plan. Many things can go wrong. You can get screwed up at any point. So just make a plan. My project was the 7 cities of Delhi. Before I started the project, I did not know that Delhi had 7 cities, and most people that I know have no clue that Delhi has 7 cities. But yeah, there are 7 cities of Delhi, 7 historic cities. Where did the inspiration first come? I did a course on the history of photography with the Photography Society of America. It was roughly, I think, a 4 or 5 month long course, and this is the book that I studied. It's a fascinating book. The history of photography is absolutely fascinating. In today's world of digital photography, there are many techniques, but in a certain way, everyone is moving towards a particular look. 19th century and the early 20th century saw an absolutely amazing explosion of chemical techniques, and It's fascinating. If you started in the world of film or analog like I did, there's always something that pulls you back towards this genre of photography. The plan was very simple, or the intent was very simple, and that was to photograph each city and to edit them using a different technique of the 19th century. That was my plan. So I studied this book. Um, Unfortunately, the title has disappeared, but again, I will write the title in the description. The This book is not a cookbook. This is a book on the various analog processes that were prevalent or popular in the 19th century. They are all chemical processes and all requiring an investment in labs, equipment, chemicals, frames, glass, all sorts of things. And I didn't have the money for that. I did not have the resources for that. Let me put it that way. So then I decided that I am going to simulate these 19th century techniques digitally. So this is one book that I own. In fact, I owned the previous two books as well. So the second part of the research was to choose the locations, because some of these cities actually are widespread, and I'm talking about the walled city of Delhi, Shah Jahanabad, which is widespread, and I did not want to go all over the place. Some have almost disappeared, like the first city, which is called Lal Kot. That was founded by the Rajput Tomas. But today we include Qutub Minar, Mehrauli, or parts of Mehrauli in the first city. Second city, Siri, has almost disappeared. And so, different kind of. So I needed to find the locations of where I wanted to shoot. I needed research on how to digitally simulate these old techniques. So I started with this book, and then I studied the histories of Delhi and the seven cities. Apart from this book, I also did a lot of internet research to understand how I could simulate these old techniques. So there was a lot of research that I did, and that took up a fairly large portion of my project plan, and there was a deadline. The third part was to understand the photography styles of the 19th century and what the images look like. This image is from Wiki Commons. The photography style of the 19th century was what we would call straight photography. Now, it's important to understand how these people went about doing their photography. They carried their gear, which was fairly heavy, large format cameras, often shooting on glass plates. So they carried the glass plates, they carried everything, including the tripods, and they didn't have the flexibility of bending down and looking for different angles, because that's something which we have with our current small digital cameras, but they didn't have those. And if you're going to do something like pinhole photography, you will put your camera on a tripod. And once you do that, you limit the angles you restrict the kind of angles that you allow yourself to shoot. So what went wrong? Everything was perfect until I started editing. Editing demands a lot of time, and in this case, editing demanded much more time than I expected. I was clear about what I wanted to do in terms of the look which I wanted to achieve, but it took considerably more time than I expected. Sometimes you're not sure about what look you want to, what style you want to achieve. I have not yet edited the images that I photographed in Arunachal Pradesh 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. So editing takes time. It's not just the photography. Editing takes a lot of time and I underestimated the time that I required, and the deadline was tight. The third mistake that I made was not doing enough research on the final output. I created this book, The Seven Cities of Delhi, The Photographer's Perspective, and I put it on Amazon. This image, by the way, is the cover image is a digital simulation of the calotype. The calotype form of photography was the first time we as in photographers, started to use the negative positive process. So, what did the book need? Number one, more description on the shoots, the challenges, a lot more detail, which I didn't do, I didn't give. I should have made it more colorful. I should have actually written about some of the adventures that I had. And there were quite a few adventures when guards pulled me back from certain areas, saying that druggies live in certain areas, and if I walked there with my camera, I would be in trouble. I was using my Nikon D810, which is a fantastic camera, but now I use Fujifilm. I needed more time to edit, and I needed a larger book format with photo paper. I made a massive mistake in actually uh, taking a normal, I think 6 by 9 or 4 by 5 by 8 format, which meant that the photographs in the book were small. I should have had a 12 by 12 with one photograph per page, and that would have been fantastic. But then again, I would have needed more photographs and more time to edit. So lots of things can go wrong, and this is what um, happened with me. I did plan to make a second edition. I couldn't do it. Um, then I'll tell you about that in 2 minutes. So the main lessons, not lesson, give yourself more time. Plan your project, stay within deadlines, or if you don't have a deadline, an external deadline, give yourself more time to complete the project. Don't rush, but don't be so lazy that you drag it on for years when you can actually complete it with a bit of proper planning in 6 to 9 months. A 1 year, 2 year, 3 year project is a waste of time unless it requires a investment in resources. Like I would have needed uh, considerable investment in resources to actually create images using those techniques in the original way or in the original format and manner, or using the original techniques and materials. Number two, if you need to travel. So, for instance, if I want to do a trip, and I've had this plan in my mind for a long time to do a road trip around India and photograph various parts of India. So that will require a few years because I need to plan the routes, plan where I'll stop, and then take the time to actually travel, edit, write, and maybe get a sponsor. So plan yourself, plan your time. If it's a local project, 6 to 9 months is good. And if it's a longer project which requires travel, maybe you might require 1 or 2 years. And then you might start you might need to start thinking about a sponsor. Think about these aspects. I did plan to use or to create a second edition, but disaster happened. Boom. I planned a second edition, but I lost all my data. My hard drive and my backup drive crashed together during COVID. I lost 3 years of work. I took my drives to several places in Delhi, but nobody could recover the data. Recovering data costs money. I will make one or two more attempts, and if not, both those hard drives are going to become paperweights or um, decorative items. So now I have two drives, a hard drive, a backup drive, and I back up all my data to Backblaze, which is an online service. Fantastic. Costs $99 a year per computer, but they give you unlimited storage, which is superb. It gives you peace of mind. I am an affiliate, so I will add my affiliate link at the bottom. But I want you to think about how you back up your data because you can create a big mess. So that's it for this video. The next video is one about editing, where I'm going to demonstrate how to edit using Lightroom Creative Cloud or the web version of Lightroom. And that's something which my students have requested. So I'll be making 4 videos actually. Editing with Lightroom, Lightroom Classic again, and Photoshop. So follow me, and if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, give a comment, leave a comment, and please, yes, do subscribe. I will make more videos. Follow along, and I am planning a photo trip to Benares and maybe one more later early next year to Rishikesh. So if you're interested, get in touch with the Delhi School of